welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Free Expression Friday series, an interview series from ABA's American Booksellers for Free Expression, celebrating the amazing work of booksellers, organizers, and book people in general, fighting for the right to read.
Hi, I'm here with Shelly McClone-Carriere at Lion's Tooth in Milwaukee. Shelly, we're here in person. I'm in your store, which is kind of a rare treat, but I'm here for Heartland, and I decided to stop by and talk to you. So can you tell us a little bit about Lion's Tooth, how it came about, and just sort of what the vision of the store is?
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We started out, I'm going to go back to the history, long history. I met the co-owner, Chris, when I was 20. I went with a bunch of friends down to Brazil, and she had a party, and we met at her party.
Incredible.
So
this bookstore in Milwaukee started at a party in Brazil.
In São Paulo, Brazil.
Beautiful.
So fast forward many years, Chris moved to Milwaukee to attend film school, and we became really good friends. Fast forward another 10 years, and we were kind of in that, 40-year-old, what are we doing with our lives, not really liking where our jobs are going. And we wanted to open up something that we both really had a passion for. So books and alternative culture and comics was the thing. So in 2019, we incorporated and we started doing pop-up events at the Sugar Maple, which is a bar near a few blocks down, where we would have an adult band and a teenage band play, just because we wanted to get kids and teenagers into alternative graphic novels and radical nonfiction. So we did that for we did about 4 or 5 of those, and then the world shut down. So then during the pandemic, we were looking for a space because we knew the long goal was to always have a brick and mortar. So during the pandemic, we happened upon the space that we're in right now, and it worked. So we purchased the building, we moved in March of 2021, and we've been going ever since. And we specialize, like I said, in alternative graphic novels and radical nonfiction.
Can you expand a little bit on those two categories, alternative graphic novels and radical nonfiction? What do those mean to you? Because if you're in the store, like I am now, looking at the shelves, it's immediately apparent what you mean, right? There's such a distinct vibe and the curation is so clear. But for someone who is not lucky enough to be sitting in your store, what does that mean to you?
So alternative graphic novels, how does Chris say? Because Chris is the expert on the alternative graphic novels, not superheroes. So it's memoirs about everything from dealing with schizophrenia to my favorite thing is Monsters, which is kind of this coming-of-age queer story. So it's more art-driven and story-driven, I would say, than a lot of the superheroes, like the Batman, Superman, yeah.
Got it.
And radical nonfiction, we like to have a lot of small presses and things that just make you think, things like with things going on in the world, we have a large selection of books on Palestine, so people can learn and be more informed about the situation that's happening there, and books about abolition and just city and urban planning. We like to do a lot of things that we like and that we find interesting.
And one of the things that is so interesting looking around the space and walking around the store is that a space like this and that kind of publishing, both of which seem kind of on the margins in a way. And what's so evident when you're sitting here is that being on the margins in that way can enable some really beautiful, really important work to happen. I mean, are there topics, themes that you feel like can happen in presses like that, in spaces like this, that you feel like aren't represented elsewhere?
Yeah, I do definitely believe that. And it's zines. We carry a lot of zines, which are self-published, like kind of like the zines, like the personal magazines, where it's a great outlet for somebody to write 20 pages about something and share their thoughts with other people. And I think spaces like this are very important because a lot of times you don't get that information, or a lot of times you don't get both sides of that information.
And if someone is only shopping at a certain online mega store that shall not be named on this podcast, it's going to be harder to find things like that, right? And one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording was the fact that supporting independent bookstores and indie creators in that way can be actually a way of supporting free expression. What has opening a store like this allowed you to learn, to be exposed to?
I think Chris and I are both very curious people, and we're constantly learning. We both read a lot. And I think one of the coolest things is the communities. Like we carry zines from QZAP, which is the Queer Zine Archive, which is one of the longest running queer zine archives that's based right here in Milwaukee. So Milo, like, big supporter, big love, just kind of like these communities and being more involved in them has been a lot of fun.
But it's also so much pressure to keep a small independent place open. I mean, can you, if you're comfortable talking about it, can you talk about some of what makes it hard to keep an independent space stocking independent things, to just keep it going? Because I know so many of our listeners are going through many of the same things.
I think the number one thing is being transparent with people. We put out a call maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that we needed help. That it was a really slow summer. The RNC was in town, which just made July sales non-existent. Because...
Oh, you mean they didn't come to the Queer Zine shop?
No, surprise.
I'm flabbergasted, frankly.
So, we really needed help, and putting that out there. And we got a large response to that. But if you love something, you have to make an effort to support it, because if you don't, it might not be there the next time you go. But Chris and I, we both pivoted. I always say that we're on our tippy toes, ready to change direction, and just found part-time jobs to help, because we love Lion's Tooth and we love what we do here, and we don't want it to go away. Because we do, we have a great support of the community. I don't know how many times people will walk in and say, "This is my favorite place."
Yeah. And you have the support of the community, but it's also so evident, again, just looking around at the shelves, that you are also supporting the community of creators and independent artists and zine makers and things whose work you carry.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that reciprocal relationship? I mean, how do you build that kind of community that this store can then be a testament to?
And I think we are part of the organizing committee of the Milwaukee Zine Fest. So we're in the community, and we sell a lot of art prints, and a lot of times it's somebody comes in and they say, "Can I sell my print here?" And Chris and I are always like, "Absolutely, here is our policy." And then they tell a friend, and then their friend comes and they tell a friend. So, I think it's just being open, and immediately too, I will put a price on it and put it on the shelf so they can take a picture before they leave, just to see, because how great is it to see your art on a wall? It doesn't have to be a gallery. We're a mini gallery for many people. And kids too, that's one of my favorite things, is kids will come in and they'll be like, "I drew this scene," and I'll take money out of the drawer and pay them right away. And
that's amazing. That's so amazing.
To suddenly have their zine in our bin.
Well, and, I know that any bookseller who's listening to this has some kind of relationship with local authors who are coming in and asking the store to carry their work on consignment. And a lot of stores, I think, don't quite know how to do that, or maybe are a little bit like, I'm not sure I want to carry that because I don't know how to evaluate whether it's something that I want on my shelves, or I don't know how to make this work in terms of profitability. Could you talk all about that if you're comfortable, about just how you make that work?
Absolutely. And it is hard because you can't read everything that's here. But we do, we're not going to carry something if we don't believe in what they're writing about, or if it's hurtful. We always say, like, if it's hurtful, is it, yeah. So we try to skim over books if we don't know, or ask people that have read them to see, or check on online reviews to make sure that they're not. But we do like to support. That's part of our mission, is to support local artists and writers and things like that. So we will take a copy, because we're really small. You're not here, but this is a pretty intimate space.
It is. In the best way, but in a way that also makes you make hard curatorial decisions, right?
Absolutely. And things sometimes take a while, like with zines, because we have a commitment to the small zine makers. So we will do zines almost with no question, no question except for, does it follow our politics? Is it hurtful?
Yeah.
Or sometimes books, it's a little bit harder because they take up a little more space, but we try our hardest too.
Okay, well, Shelly, I sincerely hope that anyone who's listening to this who hasn't been to Lion's Tooth gets a chance to come, because it's an illustration of what that kind of reciprocal relationship with your community can look like. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Chris and I, we grew up in the DIY punk scene, which is the do-it-yourself punk scene, where it's just like, if there isn't something, do it. Try it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was part of my thing with opening up the bookstore, was I love our public libraries, but they didn't always have the books I wanted because there was such a small press, where we made it happen.
Yeah, and when you support independent businesses who support independent creators, then that's what you're enabling, right? And that's what risks disappearing when the only option becomes, again, the online megalith super seller that we shall not name.
Yeah.
So, Shelly, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Bookstore Education Podcast, brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!